What if I told you that uh, the reason you keep missing the green from like 75 meters out has absolutely nothing to do with your golf swing?
Right, which sounds completely counterintuitive to most players.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah.
Because it actually has everything to do with where you are looking. So today, we are completely dismantling the whole illusion of feel in your short game.
It is entirely an illusion for most of us.
Oh, 100%. So picture yourself staring down that dreaded intermediate approach shot. You know the one.
The awkward yardage.
Exactly. It's too short for a full swing, but it's way too long for just a delicate little chip around the green.
Right.
So what do? You grab a wedge, you stare down the pin, and you just try to manufacture this perfect distance based entirely on imagination. And, well, vibes.
Yeah, just pure guesswork, which is a strategy that predictably ends with the ball splashing into a front bunker.
Or rocketing into the rough behind the green.
Exactly. And our source material today takes a really brutal, but I think necessary stance on this. Your body cannot consistently produce a physical output, like a specific distance, that it has never actively calibrated.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because most golfers don't fail at pitching because they lack athletic ability, right?
No, not at all.
Or even hand-eye coordination. They fail because their distances are completely undefined.
Right, they're just guessing.
Yeah. I was actually thinking about it like a musician trying to improvise jazz.
Oh, that's a good analogy.
Right. You can't just pick up a saxophone and play by feel if you've never actually learned the underlying scales.
You'd just be making noise.
Exactly. You have to build those structural standards first before your intuition actually means anything out there.
That is a perfect parallel. Because this deep dive is really about transforming wedge play from this game of hopeful improvisation into a reliable, calibrated machine.
Specifically targeting that incredibly frustrating 20 to 110 meter range.
Yeah, the scoring zone. And the foundational rule of this systematic approach is that your specific yardages, they're highly personal.
Right.
But the structure you use to uncover them, that is universal.
So by personal, we mean that, say, a highly dynamic, fast-swinging player might map out this whole system and find their distances cover like 25 to 110 meters.
Exactly.
But then a player with a smoother, maybe slower tempo might run that exact same calibration and find their wedges only cover 20 to 90 meters.
Yeah, the framework doesn't dictate how far you should hit the ball.
Right. There's no right answer for distance.
No, it dictates how you organize the energy you naturally produce. So you basically stop chasing these arbitrary numbers on a launch monitor.
Which we all do.
Oh, constantly. Instead, you apply your personal swing engine to a really rigid set of parameters, you measure the output, and then you just claim those numbers as your baseline.
Okay, so let's lay out those parameters for the listener. The system basically requires 4 specific tools, right?
Yes. 4 wedges: a pitching wedge, a gap wedge, a sand wedge, and a lob wedge.
Got it.
Yeah.
And you combine those 4 clubs with 3 strictly defined backswing lengths.
Right, and this is what the text calls the clock model.
Which is super visual.
It is. So for a right-handed golfer, I want you to imagine your straight left arm is the hour hand on a clock face.
Okay.
The system demands 3 exact backswing limits: 7.30, 9.00, and 11.30.
Just those 3.
Just those 3. And the critical shift in mindset here is treating these as absolute physical boundaries. They're not vague suggestions.
Right, so you don't just like swing generally around waist height and call it good.
No, you hit 9.00 exactly.
That rigidity kind of instantly turns pitching from an unpredictable art form into repeatable geometry.
Yes, exactly.
And within this clock structure, you establish what the text calls your anchor points.
Right.
Which are basically the outer limits of your personal distance map.
Yeah, your absolute minimum and maximum in this system. So the shortest standard pitch uses your highest lofted club.
The lob wedge.
Exactly. Swung to the shortest position, which is 7.3. And then the longest standard pitch uses your lowest lofted wedge, the pitching wedge, swung to the longest position, 11.30.
So that gives you your entire functional window.
Right. And crucially, on every single shot between those two extremes, you must swing aggressively through the ball and hold the finish.
Hold the finish. That's huge. Because establishing those 2 anchor points, it kind of removes the terror of the unknown.
It completely eliminates it.
Every distance between your 7.30 lob wedge and your 11.30 pitching wedge, it stops being a panicked guess.
Right. It simply becomes a selection from a menu that you've already built in practice.
Which is such a relief. Real quick, before we look at how the physical environment can actually completely ruin this perfect clock system, a quick reminder. If you're enjoying the content we bring here, please subscribe to our channel It helps us continue producing educational content like this and allows us to keep sharing modern golf knowledge with golfers around the world.
Yeah, and moving from basically inventing a shot out of thin air to executing a known standard, it's incredibly freeing for your mental game.
I completely agree. But I do have to push back on the mechanics of this just a little bit.
Sure.
Because the clock positions 7.3a, 9.0, 11.38, they sound great in a textbook.
They do.
But how does a player actually enforce a 9.0 backswing on the course?
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have a mirror in the fairway.
Right.
You don't have a coach standing behind you physically stopping your arm. And I know my own game. If I get anxious over a water hazard, I'm going to rip that 9.0 swing back to like 10.30 without even realizing I did it.
Yeah, under pressure, things break down. But what's fascinating here is how the system solves that spatial awareness problem without adding a mechanical swing thought.
Okay, how?
It uses visual calibration. Every single backswing length is linked to a highly specific gaze point on the flagstick.
Wait, so you deliberately alter where you are looking based on how long your swing needs to be?
Yes, exactly. So if you are executing a 7.3 backswing, you lock your eyes on the very bottom of the flagstick, like right where it meets the grass. For a 9.0 backswing, you stare directly at the middle of the stick. And for an 11.30 swing, your gaze focuses all the way on the top of the flag itself.
Okay, I have to be honest.
Yeah.
When I first read that in the source material, I was highly skeptical.
It sounds a bit like magic, right?
Yeah, looking at a different part of the pin just feels like a mental gimmick. How does tilting my chin up or down actually physically stop my arm from traveling too far?
It works because of the neurological link between your visual cortex and your motor control.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, your visual system is actually the strongest distance input your brain possesses.
Okay, that makes sense.
So when you lock your eyes on a near target, like the bottom of the pin, your brain tightens its spatial parameters. It sends this subconscious command that actually limits the kinetic chain.
Wait, really?
Yeah, your body naturally shuts off the backswing rotation earlier simply because the visual input is screaming short.
So you are basically hijacking your brain's natural targeting software to sync up with your body's mechanics.
Exactly.
You look at the bottom of the pin, the brain calculates a shorter throw, and it naturally halts the arm at that 7.2G position.
Yes, and furthermore, the expected outcome of the shot perfectly aligns with that visual cue.
What do you mean?
Well, think about it. A 7.3U swing produces less club head speed, right?
Right.
And therefore less spin. So the ball is going to land short of the hole and release forward. By looking at the bottom of the flag, you are focusing exactly where the ball will end up rolling.
Oh, I see. And conversely, an 11.30 swing generates maximum speed and maximum spin.
Right.
So it's going to fly all the way to the pin and stop dead, or maybe even spin back.
Exactly.
So your eyes are locked on the top of the flag, representing that high, deep ball flight.
Right.
Man, that is a brilliant way to stabilize your speed delivery.
It really is. It sharpens your body's ability to repeatedly execute a distance intention. But, you are absolutely right to worry about the actual mechanics breaking down out there.
Right, because I still do it.
Which brings us to the text's single non-negotiable rule about body geometry.
The 90-degree rule.
Yes.
Because, look, visual calibration might successfully get your arm to 9.00, but none of that matters if your wrist collapses or if your arm bends on the way down.
Right.
The visual cue can't save a totally broken kinetic chain.
No, it can't.
And
Regardless of whether you are swinging to 7.3, 9.0, or 11.3, you simply must maintain a 90-degree angle between your lead arm and the club shaft throughout the entire motion.
Right. I like to think of it like a drafting compass drawing a circle on a piece of paper.
I like that.
If you lock that hinge tightly, the pencil traces a flawless, perfectly symmetrical circle every single time.
Exactly.
The distance from the center point to the edge never changes. But if that hinge is loose at all,
Right, if the angle slips even a millimeter while you're sweeping it across the paper,
the radius completely collapses.
the geometry is ruined and the circle becomes this jagged oval. And the golf swing relies on that exact same physics. If the 90-degree angle between your arm and the shaft wanders or breaks down, the circular arc you are drawing around your body degrades.
And a changing radius means the bottom of your swing is suddenly totally unpredictable.
Right.
So that perfectly calibrated 75-meter shot is either going to fly 60 meters or maybe 90 meters, just depending on when the club head actually decides to meet the ball.
Exactly, which is why the system demands that you completely eliminate any movement that threatens that geometry.
Right way.
Specifically lateral sway.
Wow.
You cannot introduce a big, aggressive transition move where you slide your hips toward the target.
Right, because extra movement in a pitch shot does not generate useful power anyway.
No, it doesn't. It simply creates a moving low point in your swing arc.
Let's visualize that moving low point for a second. If your weight shifts heavily from side to side, the center of that drafting compass we talked about is actually sliding across the paper roll it's trying to draw.
Yes, meaning the club is going to reach the bottom of its arc either way before the ball.
Causing you to chunk the turf.
Right. Or after the ball, causing you to blade it super thin across the green.
The absolute worst feeling.
Truly. Your weight needs to remain centered, perhaps slightly forward, allowing your body to just rotate in place. Because clean contact is the ultimate currency of distance control.
It really is.
Without it, your clock positions are completely irrelevant.
Right, so we are drawing a perfect circle with the locked compass. The low point is completely stationary.
Yes.
But, and here's where it gets really interesting, golf isn't played on a drawing board.
Unfortunately not.
You step off the manicured tee box, and suddenly the environment just throws a massive wrench into that geometry.
Always.
Which leads us to what the sources call the ball position trap.
Yeah. This specific trap is where even highly skilled players inadvertently sabotage their entire distance control system.
So imagine you have your 75-meter shot, but your ball has rolled into a tiny little depression in the fairway. It's a bad lie.
We've all been there.
Basic course survival logic tells you that you need to guarantee you hit the ball first, not the heavy grass behind it.
Right.
So what do? You move the ball back in your stance towards your trail foot to ensure the club catches the ball on the downward strike.
Which makes sense. Moving the ball back does ensure clean contact, yes.
Right.
But it carries a massive, unseen consequence regarding the physics of the strike.
Because you are fundamentally altering the dynamic loft.
Exactly. When you play the ball further back in your stance, your hands naturally rest further ahead of the club head at the moment of impact.
Yeah, that makes sense.
This steepens your angle of attack and drastically increases your shaft lean, and more forward shaft lean directly translates to less dynamic loft delivered to the golf ball.
Okay, so if I pull my pitching wedge, which I normally play dead center in my stance,
Right.
but this little depression forces me to play it way back off my right toe.
You are no longer delivering a pitching wedge to the ball. You have effectively de-lofted that club. It is coming into the strike zone with the effective loft of a 9-iron or potentially even an 8-iron.
That is wild. So you haven't just moved the ball. You've essentially bent the golf club in your hands.
Basically, yeah.
The metal head might still say PW, but the launch, the spin, and the trajectory, they're all reacting to an 8-iron.
Which perfectly explains why players feel like their yardages are completely random sometimes.
Right.
They execute a normal, perfect swing from a bad lie. The ball flies 15 meters over the green, and they just assume, oh, I had an adrenaline spike, or I must have swung too hard.
Right. They blame their body.
But they didn't do anything wrong mechanically. They just secretly turned their wedge into a mid-iron, completely changing the carry distance and ensuring the ball just won't stop rolling when it lands.
Wow. This brings us to, honestly, the most brutal, disciplined rule of this entire framework. To protect your calibrated distances, your club selection actually must evolve with your ball position.
Yes, it is absolutely mandatory for system integrity.
Okay.
If the lie forces the ball slightly back in your stance, you have to put the pitching wedge back in the bag and pull out the gap wedge instead.
Really?
Yes, because the extra natural loft built into the gap wedge counteracts the dynamic loft you are losing by leaning the shaft forward.
Okay, but what if the lie is genuinely terrible and you have to play it completely off your back foot just to survive the shot?
Then you step down again. You pull the sand wedge to execute the 75-meter shot you originally mapped for your pitching wedge.
Man, standing in the middle of the fairway, needing 75 meters, and pulling a sand wedge strictly because of a bad lie.
It's tough.
And just trusting the physics of dynamic loft to deliver the pitching wedge distance, that requires incredible mental discipline.
It really does.
It's a total paradigm shift in course management.
Speaking of which, if there's a topic you'd like us to research, explain, or discuss in a future deep dive, let us know. We are always looking for new subjects that can help golfers improve, and we would love to hear your ideas. Yeah, please do. And going back to that paradigm shift, it's vital. You have to stop trying to consciously manipulate your swing to hit the ball higher or lower from a bad lie.
Right, you just change the club.
Exactly. You change the club to preserve the launch and spin windows, guaranteeing that the carry numbers you calibrated on the practice range actually materialize on the golf course.
Okay, so let's check in. We have our 4 wedges.
Yep.
We have our 3 backswing boundaries, 7.39, 1.000, 11.30.
Right.
We're using our visual cortex to limit our arm travel via those gaze points on the flagstick.
Exactly.
We're maintaining that strict 90-degree compass angle to keep a stationary low point, and we are religiously adjusting our club selection to protect our dynamic loft.
The structural mechanics are fully locked in.
The machine is built,
And ready.
but what actually powers the motion?
Right. The engine driving this entire framework is tempo.
Tempo.
Tempo is the absolute governor that transforms the static kind of theoretical geometry into a working point-and-shoot machine.
And the text establishes a really strict, almost musical cadence for this.
It does. It's a relentless 1-2, 1-2 count.
Okay, walk me through that.
So the backswing is 1-2. The through swing is 1-2. Think of a heavy pendulum just swinging back and forth.
Sure.
But the critical distinction is how those beats actually map onto the physical motion. In the downswing, beat 1 is impact.
Okay.
And beat 2 is the fully controlled, held finish.
Impact is just beat 1. I love that framing. Because you aren't searching for the golf ball like it's some sudden magical collision.
Right. It's not a violent event.
And you certainly aren't swinging smoothly to the top and then slamming on the gas pedal to generate speed right at the bottom.
No, because that sudden burst of acceleration is the mortal enemy of distance control.
Really?
Absolutely. When you actively hit at the ball, you introduce completely unpredictable force. Impact should simply be a passing moment that happens to get in the way of a continuous pendulum motion.
It is just beat 1.
Exactly. It is beat 1, and the finish is beat 2. When that cadence remains intact, your distance is stabilized because the kinetic energy you produce is finally consistent.
And this metronome approach, it builds an incredible self-diagnostic feedback loop right into your game, doesn't it?
Oh, it's amazing. This feedback loop is truly what separates amateurs from elite players.
Okay, how so?
Well, when an amateur hits a pitch shot that inexplicably flies, say, 10 meters over the target, what's their immediate reaction?
They look externally.
Exactly.
They check the wind, they examine the turf, or they literally stare at their club face like it actively betrayed them.
Right, like the club did something wrong. But inside a calibrated system, the only relevant questions are internal.
Okay.
If the ball goes too far, you analyze the engine. You ask yourself, was my rhythm too fast, or did I actively hit at the ball? Because in a structured framework, missing long almost exclusively comes from rushing that 1-2 cadence, or injecting a violent strike impulse at the bottom instead of flowing smoothly to beat 2.
That is so true. And what if the ball comes up like 5 meters short? You don't just blame the heavy grass then.
No, you ask the inverse. Was my rhythm too slow, or did I delay impact?
Basically, did you subconsciously try to kind of guide the club head down to the ball?
Exactly. Did you bleed your tempo by hesitating right before the strike? Coming up short is almost always a deceleration issue.
A failure to commit.
Yes, a failure to commit to the pendulum swing.
Man, this really highlights the profound distinction the text makes between merely practicing and actually training.
It's a huge difference because practice is often just mindless repetition. You go, stand on the range, you hit 50 balls at the exact same flag, and you just kind of hope your muscles remember the feeling.
We're all guilty of that.
For sure. But training, however, requires reading outcomes and connecting them directly to physical causes.
Right.
With this structured tempo loop, every single pitch gives you a diagnostic answer. Long means you were fast, short means you were slow.
That's beautifully simple.
It is, and that answer dictates exactly which dial you need to adjust on the very next swing.
Okay, let's synthesize all of this. Because we are completely replacing a short game that used to be built on pure, unstructured imagination.
And
panic, yes. We're replacing it with a highly organized distance library. You have 4 wedges. You have 3 absolute backswing positions.
Yep.
You have visual gaze points targeting specific parts of the flagstick.
Yeah.
You have a stable 90-degree arm structure. You've got lie-based club selection to protect your loft, and you have this unwavering 1-2 pendulum tempo.
Now, we must address the inevitable objection here.
Oh, the pushback.
Yes, because when you lay the system out like that, step by step, it sounds incredibly clinical.
It does.
Players will push back, arguing that golf is an art form, that it requires touch around the greens, and that this system just makes them way too robotic.
Right. They want to channel their inner Seve Ballesteros, magically popping the ball up with pure hands and intuition.
Exactly. But the author's response to that objection is absolute perfection.
What was it again?
Feel without reference is not feel, it is guessing with confidence.
Oh man, that line is devastatingly accurate. Guessing with confidence.
It really hits hard because you cannot reliably feel how to hit a golf ball 75 meters if your body and your brain possess no established baseline for what backswing length and what tempo actually produces a 75-meter shot.
You just can't.
The rigid structure absolutely must precede the art. You train the mechanical standards on the practice tee so that on the course you actually have a baseline to refine with your intuition.
Oh, I see. So once you know for a fact that your 9.00 gap wedge with a steady 1-2 tempo goes exactly 75 meters every time.
Yes.
Then you can step up to a real-world shot and say, okay, the pin is at 75, but the green is exceptionally firm today, so I'm going to take my baseline 9.00 gap wedge, but I'll just hold my hand slightly lower in the follow-through to flatten the flight and increase the roll.
Exactly. You are subtly adjusting a known calibrated variable rather than closing your eyes and inventing an entirely new swing from scratch.
That is the hallmark of an elite player under pressure, isn't it?
It is. They do not guess. They select. Great pit players are not born with magical hands or innate touch. They were forged through systematic training, clear reference points, and rigorous repetition.
So what does this all mean? It means the path to lowering your scores isn't about finding some mystical rhythm hidden deep within your soul. It's about building a machine, testing its outputs, and trusting the geometry.
Absolutely.
The source material argues so convincingly that without a structured framework, your so-called feel is really nothing more than an arrogant guess. And honestly, it leaves you with a deeply provocative thought that extends far beyond the golf course.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, think about it. What other areas of your daily life, your career, or your decision-making are you currently relying on feel for, when what you really need is to just stop guessing, establish a baseline, and build an actual system?
That's a great question.
It really makes you evaluate things. So the next time you are staring down that dreaded 75-meter approach, ask yourself, are you about to improvise a jazz solo without knowing any of the scales, or are you ready to execute the standard?
A standard that literally every player is capable of building.
Exactly. Well, until next time, keep calibrating.